homeless man found a strange stone. He plucked the sand from the surface with his hand. The smooth touch was like gold. He turned his head to look at the driver who was repairing his car in the distance. After hesitating for a while, still called him over. True gold is not afraid of fire. Then Danny took out a lighter and burned it. This thing does not change a bit. So this is really a piece of gold. So the two took the tools and immediately digging. To their surprise, the gold on the ground is only the tip of the gold mountain. Digging for a long time, but no bottom. They decided to use brute force to see if they could pull down, but the two men used all their strength. The gold still did not move. Seeing that human power cannot, they began to use the car to pull. But not only did the tire sink, the rope also broke. In desperation, the two men began to dig again tirelessly until late in the evening. The gold was still not at the bottom. It seems that this is not a piece of gold, but a gold mine. Digging like this is not a solution. At this point, Danny suggested, let John drive to the town to find a digger. He would stay behind to guard the gold. It might take 4 or 5 days to make the round trip. Danny reminded John again, must think of a good reason to rent the excavator. Don't let anyone see it. But John thought that he didn't know the town well. Danny should go, and he should stay behind to guard the gold. But Danny told him, surviving in the desert is no fun. It's hot during the day. At night there are vicious wolves. It's hard for an outsider to survive. But John insisted to stay. Danny didn't say anything else. The next day at dawn, Danny left John a bucket of water, a few cans of food, and a knife. He also gave him his only satellite phone. Then he excitedly drove the car to find the excavator. In the heat of the day, John covered the gold back up with sand and dirt. Then he set up a small tent using a dead tree. Then he gathered a handful of dry firewood, used the flame to avoid the attack of the wolf. The first night came. He was able to eat freshly canned food, but for the next few days, he could only eat a small bite. The next day dawned. John just opened his eyes and subconsciously looked at the gold. When the phone suddenly rang, he rushed to the phone, but there was no signal. By noon, it was hot and scorching. John kept his eyes on the gold. It was the only thing that kept him going. The firewood nearby was burnt out. He had to go farther to find. Just then, he saw something in the distance. Before he left, he covered the gold with a stone. Then he climbed up the hill. In the distance was the wreckage of a plane. Finds a gold mine under the sand. In order to hold on to the gold, he has been trapped in the desert for 48 hours, while his companion, who had gone to look for the digger, but the delay is not visible. Fortunately, he found a wreckage of a plane. He looked around the plane carefully. He thought this would be the ideal place to rest, but it was across the hill from here. If you live here, there was no way to see the gold mine, so he came up with a plan. He started tearing down the plane, dragged the wreckage back to the gold mine, set up a camp against a dead tree. But after this operation, he developed severe dehydration symptoms, and that was it. He fell into a coma. When he woke up again, his forehead and neck were already sunburned. Wounds and sweat mixed together. It attracted many mosquitoes. John was about to collapse inside. He felt he couldn't go on like this, so he knocked down a piece with a stone. He wanted to take this piece of gold with him. He wanted to get out of this shitty place. But at that moment, the phone suddenly rang.
You had something like this landed in your lap before?
No.
Want to risk losing it? Stay with the gold. Here as soon as I can. I'll have more than I'll have it all.
John, because of the severe water shortage, did not collect dry firewood during the day. The only firewood left soon went out. He could only hold a torch to chase away the wolves, and so it went on until the third day. He was so tired that he didn't care about the mosquito bites. His whole face was already unrecognizable, but he could only wait for the sake of the gold mine. Just then, he saw a poisonous snake not far away. Faced with the game on his doorstep, he grabbed his knife and jumped on it, but he didn't catch the snake. The water behind him was also spilled, pouring what was left of the soup from the can into his mouth, savoring the last of the delicacy. Day 4, John went to the wreckage of the plane again to look for supplies. When he saw a figure walking towards him not far away, he rushed to hide in the cabin, hiding the gold in his bag. But the woman still found, asked him why he was hiding here. John was silent, just wanted her to leave. At that moment, the woman got up and started looking around. Followed the dragging trail to the tent. John instantly panicked. He rushed after the woman to stop her, but it was too late. The woman still found the gold mine. In a panic, John knocked the woman down with a shovel. When he came back to his senses, he found the woman dead. He was so scared that he was frousing in place. For the sake of gold, he became a murderer, dragging a corpse through the desert, then dragged the body into a pit and buried it, and then took the woman's supplies, gulped down water, eating snake meat. Not long after that, the body was dragged out by the wolves in order to destroy the corpse. wolves. He set the body on fire. By the morning of the 5th day, he got a call from his partner. John cried on the spot, begging Danny to come back soon. But Danny said, need to wait a few more days. At this point, John's heart was broken, but in order to survive, he could only collect dry firewood in the hot sun. But when he looked up, he found a sandstorm blowing in the desert. He rushed to hide in his tent, but the humble tent couldn't stop such a gale. When he woke up again, he had a branch stuck in his abdomen. The yellow sand buried everything. He didn't know where he was anymore and lost all his equipment. But that doesn't matter. What matters is where the gold mine is. He searched around with severe pain. Finally, he found the gold mine. Then he pulled out the branch with great force. He treated it briefly. Then he used a red-hot can lid to disinfect his wound. The pain was so intense that he passed out. Unknowingly, he actually saw the dead woman. The woman did not hurt him and gave him some water. When he woke up, the woman suddenly asked him. Turned out that she was the woman's sister. John hurriedly said he didn't know, coldly chased the woman away. When he woke up again, found a circle of fires lit around him. Probably the woman helped him light it to keep the wolves away. And that's when Danny called again. He said he'd be there soon. But just then, the wolves had surrounded him. When the firewood went out, the wolves swarmed. Just a short distance away, there was a man who was watching all this, and he was the companion who had not appeared. Finally, the companion saw John being slowly dragged away by the wolves, while he dragged the excavator to the gold mine. Just as he got out of the car,